Welcome back, good learners. We're still looking at the fathers of nations and still stylistic devices, and of course, how Paul B. Vita, the author, has successfully used these particular devices to bring out various effects in this particular text. Brace yourself, buckle up, even as I'm about to take you through this particular episode. And in case you're coming across this work, is your first time, a good friend of yours did refer you to this particular channel, or you came across it accidentally, a thumbs up would do me good. That is a like, a sharing of this work with, especially those ones that you know this work will be of value, and of course a nice soothing comment. That one motivates me, inspires me to keep on sojourning on. Therefore, without that much further ado, into other stylistic devices in the fathers of nations here with me. This is still a new rebranded Liberty Media, and buckle up. So among those use of styles of language that we're going to look are the ones that are patched here. We have sarcasm, imagery, that is the use of metaphors, imagery language, use of ideophones, contrast, humor, personification. Of course, that one I've not sampled them in this particular slide here. You're going to see them later on, even as I'm going to take you through. Therefore, let's see how sarcasm as a style has been used in the fathers of nations. Sarcasm is the use of irony to cause what we call contempt. And citing the evidence from the text, we have a couple of lines there from page 48. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ask the guards I bribed to arrest me on my way back. Yes, just as rain comes, water washes off the spots of a leopard. This is Professor Kimani to his daughter, Tuni, found on page 25. I just told you why. Old is gold. Anyone stealing is not that uncommon. You know, there are a lot of spouse stealers there, wouldn't you say? Found on page 57. This is Newborn Walomu to Professor Kimani. Remember that particular part whereby a junior professor to Professor Kimani, who ends up taking Professor Kimani's wife. Let me quote the media. Pastor Chiamaka said sarcastically. He never meant that one. You know, Professor Chiamaka was one who was criticizing the government. And therefore the statement, let me quote the media, would not really be the exact words or whatever that he meant. He said this particular word sarcastically. That is on page 142. I have a confession I wish to make. I want to confess that I have not read them and to declare that I will never read them. This is President Bangora to the members of the summit. The article or the declaration that he did read, and of course the statement that he makes here, he doesn't exactly mean them. He was saying them sarcastically, and that is on page 159. Mr. Chairman, the resolutions once adopted do not have to be adopted again just because some sharp secretary somewhere has had echoes of way omega. That is found on page 159. Imagery. Similes. A simile is an imagery language. In other words, it's the use of a language that paints the exact image or vivid images of the things it's spoken. And this is a style used in this particular novel. So it is the direct comparison of two different things by use of like and as mainly used to describe something, and especially when you compare it to things that are different. The author has used a lot of similes in the text, such as he had a bushy mustache with wrinkled like a moth, fighting to free its wings, then fly away. This has been used to describe Comrade Melusi's mustache, that is on page 1. He looked like a failed sumo wrestler, described Pastor Chineke Chiamaka, cute as a button and sharp as a needle. These are Abiola's thoughts about Fiona's, that's found on page 5. Her eyes were wide and white like a pair of moons, sluggish and groggy like a satiated python, which described Newborn Walomu. That is found on page 35. The youth craned his head up, sticking it like a rooster, ready to crow, describing how Nick looked at Miss McKenzie, and that is on page 51. Lingered on like the boom of a big drum used to describe the voice of Mr. Longway. His voice tolled through the restaurant's wall silence like a thunder, describing the voice of the visitor, quote unquote, Mr. Longway. Stopping or swerving out of his way like water pausing or parting to let mosses on wheels cross the Red Sea, which describes how Chineke Chiamaka drives. Reckless. Page 107 and page 119, her big eyes were shining like light bulbs, referring to Rahma. Rahma Mahmood, if you do remember that one, good students. Rahma Mahmood was described by Saif Tahir. This is found on page 144. His belly hung over like a half-empty sack. His face had wrinkled like a dry prune. And of course, this describes Professor Kimani and found on page 161. It was as smooth as a baby's face, referring to Minister Zito. Metaphors. Metaphors is also another imagery language. This time around, we are not comparing things directly. Indirectly rather. This is a direct comparison of two things, an object and an image. So an image takes that of an object. Therefore, it is the indirect comparison of two things which is used to create a mental picture, though. Tony's eyes, citing example, have been compared to the wings of an imported butterfly, page 24. His voice, that is Tad's voice, was a lion's roar. Good students, pay attention to that particular part. Directly was a lion's roar. And Tony's eyes have been compared to those of the wings of an imported butterfly without the use of those expressions of comparing as similes like and as. And on page 38, the youth was a jargon, spewing buffoon. And on page 52, she had imagined it as an ugly monster. Page 126, his voice was all syrup and honey. That is Abiola's voice. And on page 142, we have a bird sip and a lion sip. That is on page 169. Personification. Personification is also another imagery language. A language, good learners, that of course engages 5 physical senses. In this personification here is entailing giving human abilities to non-human or inanimate objects given animate attributes. Examples will include dying old Toyota. A Toyota cannot have an attribute of dying and at the same time old. And then you couldn't tell what happiness was if it fell on your lap and cried out its name. Happiness has been given attributes there. Mrs. McKenzie meets your office. Like literally an office was another personage that now Miss McKenzie had to meet. Page 56. Little fellow is used to comrade Melusi to refer to the needle. The needle cannot be referred to as the little fellow. Remember Comrade Merusi trying to sneak in with the needle into the summit. Yes, that is on page 53. Sunrise through the heavens wide open over Banjul. That is also, of course, another personified. So we have sunrise being personified, throwing the heavens wide open. He consulted a wall clock, as if the wall clock has been given the attribute of maybe responding back to some sort of consultations from him. It told him like that is found on page 86. Meet silent listener. It was sitting silently at the far end of his office. Mother Africa. Mother Africa. Personification right there. It's only a few minutes after sunset, but you're so dark already. Mother Africa is been assumed as somebody dialoguing ensuing here. Somebody trying to refer to Africa as Mother Africa, and it's only a couple of minutes before sunset, but you're already dark already. Symbolism. Oh, that one is found on page 168. You might as well want to go through that particular page and see if that one adds up. Symbolism. Symbolism is also another use of language. It is the use of symbols to present ideas or qualities. Tuni, a good example from the text, Tuni symbolizes her place of conception. Path Alpha. Path Alpha here symbolizes the change and hope for the African's country. Way Omega symbolizes the old regime which needed to be fought and changed at the summit, which of course at the summit symbolizes the fathers of the nations. The silent listener symbolizes the fastest growing technology of the 21st century. AGDA is of course used to symbolize the think tank of the peoples pushing for Path Alpha, that's found on page 41. Number 22, remember 22 was used when all the heads of state were merging into the summit. 22 symbolizes the day undisputed president of Gambia fell from power, that's found on page 46. Ideophones. These are the exact sounds produced by something. Now, do not confuse this one with another use of language that we'll be talking about later, that is onomatopoeia. There is a word indicative of a sound, or a word suggesting a specific, or a sound is attached to the word, versus exact sounds produced by a thing. So the exact sounds produced by a thing, they'll go by ideophones. In this case, we have Paul B. Viter embracing the use of ideophones such as ha. That is on page 33. And then the sound of the machine at the store where Afolabi met his father-in-law. It went blip, blip. So that is an exact sound of an object or something that's being produced, and therefore has also evidently been used by Paul B. Viter, the author, found on page 68. Aha. And then also page 87. Aha. Oh la la. That's page 170. Contrast. It entails differences in two or more entities. It has been used to bring out the difference in the people based on their physical appearance or situations in the text. A proper example is on page 101. The Nigerian president looked more majestic in those sky blue robes that he was wearing than his counterpart Gambian in his rose of white cotton. Chiamaka's observations: when Way Omega offers you a bird in the bush, Path Alpha presses that bird into your hands. Two contrasting opinion, ideological standpoints that are being presented close to one another. That is what we refer to as contrast. And then a very big thank you, good learners. We're going to pause here. This particular episode, this marks the end of that particular work there. In as much as we've got other more use of language that we're going to discuss later on, but in this particular episode is an adios. Just want to remind you again, without giving up, in case you came across this work is your first time, or a good friend of you did refer you to this particular channel, a thumbs up will do make good, a subscription that is, and share it with good friends, especially those that you know this work would be of great significance. Cheers for now.